If you're aiming to achieve exceptionally high grades or even just good grades, you need to be able to train your mind to sit down and study for long periods of time. And that's just how it is, there's no way around it. And so before I started university, I did a lot of research and preparation on how to study, on how to train my mind to be able to sit down and focus on my studying for hours and hours without feeling fatigue or getting distracted. I was told by students that were already studying the degree that I was about to start, economics and finance, that I was in for the toughest exams I'd ever experienced. And they weren't wrong. The exams were tough and it took a lot of hard work and long days of studying and late nights, but throughout the 3 years of my degree, in the final year, studying for 12 hours in a day was actually relatively easy. So in my first year at university, I would get distracted a lot easier. I would feel tired in the middle of the day, I would lose concentration, but using specific study techniques and habits, by the third year, it was relatively easy to study for 12 hours a day. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can train your mind to do the same. And most of the things in this video I go into far more detail in the Transform Your Grades in 30 Days course I recently launched. If you're struggling to focus on your studying for anything more than a few hours a day, then the course will almost definitely help you. You can click on the link in the description to find out more about it. Have one clear goal. So this is super important. Goal setting is huge, we all know that. It's well documented. There have been countless studies on how goals help promote productivity and significantly improve the overall outcome. But what worked for me, what motivated me to be able to study for 12 hours a day was that before even starting my studying at university, I had one single goal, just one, and that was to graduate with a first-class honours degree, equivalent to a 4.0 GPA. You see, I'd never achieved that grade before at high school for anything, not even for one exam. So my overall grade at high school was a 1.3 GPA, so that was a huge goal for me to achieve a 4.0. And I knew that it was a huge goal. I knew that it was going to be incredibly difficult, and that's why I only had the one goal. You see, a lot of people, they have 3 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals, but the more goals you have, the lower the probability you have of achieving them, because you have to divide your time and resources between all of the goals. However, if you just have one, and that is clear, that is well defined, that is time sensitive, so you have a deadline of when you need to achieve it by, then you can focus all your time and resources towards that one target. And for me, I was aiming for a 4.0 GPA, so I'd make sure that my studying was going far beyond that. So let's say if I thought that 7 hours of studying every day would be enough to achieve a 4.0 GPA, then I'd study for 9 hours a day. So that's 2 hours more than I needed to. The idea being that you don't want to just achieve your goal, but you want to absolutely destroy it. You want to put so much time and resources behind achieving it that there's no way you're not going to achieve it. And that's where my mindset was at university, and it paid off. I did end up achieving my main goal, and I had some smaller goals too that would support my main goal. So some of those were to go to the gym 5 days a week, another one was to study at least 8 hours a day. Both of those would help me move closer to my main aim. Build your self-esteem. Now, this is something that I feel so passionately about because I've been on both sides. I cover this topic, self-esteem, in far more depth in the Transform Your Grades course because it's so important. When I was achieving average grades at high school, or below average grades in many cases, it was because my self-esteem was so low. My confidence was so low. I didn't believe that I was capable of achieving really good grades, therefore I didn't even study for them. Why would I study for A grades if I didn't believe that I was capable of achieving them, right? So it would be a complete waste of time. And that's the trap that I fell into at high school. And it's sad because I get emails and DMs and comments on my videos every day where I can see that the students just don't believe in themselves. They have low self-esteem. They just don't know what they're truly capable of. And it's like, I just want to shake them and tell them what they're thinking right now. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't think that you're capable of doing well in your exams, then it's just not going to happen. And so to be able to stay focused and study for 12 hours a day, you need to have the confidence that if you do study for 12 hours a day, if you do stay focused and study smart and really make those 12 hours count, then you are going to smash the exams when they come around. There's no way that that's not going to happen, but you first need to believe in yourself, and second, you need to study smart. Studying for 12 hours doesn't necessarily guarantee you to achieve high grades, because you need to study hard, but you also need to study smart. And I made a whole video on the concept of studying hard and studying smart and how I taught myself to study smart. You can click on the pop-up banner to watch it. Be patient. As I mentioned earlier in the video, it wasn't until I was in my 3rd year at university that studying for 12 hours a day became actually really easy. It took about 2 to 3 hours of daily practice to get to that stage. I saw it in some ways like going to the gym. To grow more muscle, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of training in the gym to get there. And the mind is the same. It's a muscle that needs to be trained. It takes time to learn how to stay focused for long periods of time. So if you're struggling to study even just, let's say, 4 hours a day, then that's completely okay. What you need to do at this point is to be making steady, incremental progress every week. So let's say you're struggling to study for 4 hours a day, and then you keep working at it until it becomes easier. Then after a few weeks or even a few months, slowly increase it to 5 hours and then to 6 hours, and just work up from there. But don't be too hard on yourself. You're going to have a good days and you're going to have bad days. I had bad days all the time where I could only study for a few hours that day, and that's fine, it's completely normal. But what's important though is that you start the next day with a refreshed mindset and learn from any mistakes that you might have made the previous day. At the beginning, you will probably feel a huge amount of resistance, but as you keep working on increasing the amount of time you study like I did, that feeling of resistance should steadily subside. Have a study plan. Creating a study plan was for me an incredibly effective way to make sure that I had covered all the topics I needed to cover before the exam. So I had been in this situation so many times where I had, let's say, 30 topics to study before an exam, and I would start studying for them, but I'd start running out of time, and the day before the exam I'd still have 10 to 15 topics to cover in 24 hours. And then it just turned into an overnight cramming session to cram in as many topics as I could before the exam. Obviously that's not a great strategy, so I started to make a study plan for each exam so that I could spread out the topics evenly that I needed to cover before the exam. After doing this, it helped me set aside enough time to complete homework assignments, study for exams, but also helped me with managing my time outside of studying too. So for me, having a study plan was probably the single best thing I did in terms of making university almost completely stress-free. I didn't have to worry about cramming before an exam because I spread my workload over the entire semester rather than leaving it too late. My productivity increased because every time I knew exactly what topics I needed to cover. And because of all of this, my studying was far more enjoyable and my grades were far better. It really was a win-win situation. Now, it would be remiss of me not to mention that I didn't study for 12 hours a day every day. With my study plan in place and my workload spread out across the entire semester, I just didn't have to study for 12 hours every day. So I was able to fit in other things like exercise, socializing, that kind of thing. So if you are studying hard and pushing yourself to the limit, please keep your mental and physical health in check. Your health should always be prioritized above your studying, and also please make sure you're taking regular breaks, especially if you're staring at a laptop for hours every day. Taking breaks will also help with concentration as well and allow you to study for longer hours because it will give your brain a rest and help stop you from getting distracted. And also, equally as important, just because you're studying for 12 hours a day, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to ace your exams. You need to study efficiently too. I made a video recently on how I study less while learning more. So basically how I make every hour of studying as efficient as possible, where I process and retain as much information as possible. You can click on the video on the screen and I'll see you over there.